Hello everybody, this is Claudia Kaiser from Camino de la Fertilidad, and today I would like to talk to you about one of the core services that I offer, which is Astro-Metabolic Profiling. In fact, I do an Astro-Metabolic profile for every new person that comes to work with me, and I always go back to the ones that I have already made for the people who have worked with me before, so that I make sure that I will always see what is currently going on for them in the context of their unique being, of their unique constitution, of their unique metabolism, to place it in that bigger vision of what is their soul here for, what does it want, where are the conflict points. And so metabolic profiling in general is based on that idea that there is no one size fits all. We are all different, we are all unique, and we all have our individual needs when it comes to food, when it comes to lifestyle, when it comes to what nourishes us and what harms us, what we need and what we desire. And I am here to help you with my external view on you, to put aside my own biases, at least to the extent that this is actually possible, to step out of my constitution, of my being, of what works for me, and to see you with fresh eyes, to really tune into what is it like to be you, to be that being, and what does it need, because that might be completely different than what I need. So often we see that we are projecting what works for us and other people and recommend them exactly that thing, whether it's going keto or vegan or doing a water fast or whatever it might be. And that might not actually be the right approach, because what works for us might not work for the other person and actually might even make them worse. So it's been 15 years already since I've been introduced to the idea of different nutritional types. It all started when I studied Chinese medicine back in 2009, and then got further refined when I encountered the Health Excel system of metabolic typing in 2012 and did the training, became a metabolic typing advisor. And so I used those systems for some years, gathering experience both on a personal and a professional level, and also encountering the limitations, at least the way I was practicing them. But it motivated me to continue to search, to continue to refine those systems so that they were more and more accurate. And that led me to include more perspectives in the puzzle work that I'm doing. So besides the Chinese medicine perspective and the metabolic typing perspective, which also includes the functional medicine perspective, these days Astro-Metabolic Profiling also includes the perspective from symptom symbolism. What are my symptoms actually talking about when it comes to underlying conflicts, psychosomatic issues, and also to relate those to the archetypes, to the zodiac signs of astrology. So these days I also include the astrological perspective, and that has been a true game changer. On the one hand, because it allows me to calculate in a quite accurate way the energetic distribution of someone's base constitution in an objective way that is not susceptible to subjective distortions as questionnaires are inherently, which I do using my own algorithm these days, because algorithms I found on the internet also had their limitations because they associate the energies with the classical allocation to fire, water, earth, and air, that we usually apply when we think of astrology. For example, Virgo, earth, or Scorpio, water. And what I have found is that this is not necessarily accurate. So I would, for example, have a client who would tell me that in Ayurveda, which actually is another perspective I include, and the chakras, they are a Vata imbalance. They are a Vata type with a Vata imbalance. And all I would see was Earth, because they had a lot of Virgo energy in their astro chart. And it just didn't make sense until I understood that Virgo is actually a quite airy type of earth. So Virgo is quite Vata, in fact. And so these days I apply 3/4 of Virgo to air for the sake of that energetic distribution chart. And it has made my advice much more accurate. And it has also allowed that the different perspectives actually match, which they always should. It shouldn't matter from which angle we look. It always should kind of fit together. And sometimes it didn't, but these were exactly those challenges that made me understand important errors in the way I used to do my analysis. And so Astro-Metabolic Profiling is much more complex than simply looking at your sun sign or your moon sign. In fact, it can be quite misleading to do that. I often smile when I have a person in front of me who tells me, oh, I'm all water, because I have my sun in Cancer and my moon in Scorpio, for example. And all I see is fire. And when I then look at their chart, it actually turns out that they either have their sun in the first house, or their owner of the ascendant in a fire sign or in a fire house, or Mars in the first house. Not forgetting that Scorpio also is a quite fiery water. So that also brings in the importance, which is something I teach in the implementation process in the personal Camino, the necessity to feel yourself again, to really observe yourself with fresh eyes. Because then you would see all that fire in you and not allow yourself to be conditioned by something external that tells you, based on some erroneous understanding, that you're all water. And you're probably going to have water inside of you as well. But it's important to start by seeing and feeling yourself. And this is what I am here for, to help you with, to guide you with, because it's something that I offer to start with, that external, unbiased, objective view with all these different tools at my disposal and the experience that I have gathered over the years, really interpreting the different signs and putting together the different puzzle pieces to a picture that actually makes sense, no matter which angle you look from. Once I have a person's energetic distribution chart, knowing how much air, water, fire, and earth is there in their base constitution, I can then tie that back together with the other perspectives, with the Ayurveda doshas, Vata, Pitta, Kapha, and also with the metabolic types defined in the health Excel system: sympathetic dominant, parasympathetic dominant, or balanced autonomic, and fast oxidizer, slow oxidizer, and mixed oxidizer, but with a different level of detail. Because fast oxidation, for example, can come from Aries, it can come from Virgo, it can come from Gemini, and they all have slightly different needs when it comes to how to balance that fast oxidation, whereas the classical fast oxidizer diet would be the same for all of them, focusing on fat and protein. But when we really know in detail which archetype is responsible for that fast oxidation, we can be more precise, because maybe for some of them it's more the fat, for others it's more the protein, and not necessarily both together. Specific foods also, specific minerals. And in the end, by looking at a person from so many different perspectives, is also a way to verify our findings, because in the end it should all match up. And the information that I get from just objectively looking at the astro chart is then confirmed also through the additional information that I get through the questionnaire, through diagnostic work, through blood analysis, and of course observation. The second big value that astrology has provided me in my metabolic typing analysis is that it gives very profound insights into a person's soul journey, what the soul is here for, what it wants, and where the potential conflict points are, and how they then express in the body as symptoms. So by reading in the body and looking at the chart, we can connect dots and we can see which element is asking for presence, for attention, for help, for support, and can then, precisely using food, but also other measures, embodiment or breath work or working on certain issues, really help that element to get back in balance. And as such, really create healing at the root, which is always to be found in our soul. In my astrological analysis, I base myself on the rhythm teachings by Wolfgang Döbereiner in combination with the mundane astrology, which I find gives it a deeper level of insight than using the mundane astrology by itself. So how does it work? There are two ways that I can make your astro-metabolic profile, depending on whether we are going to work together in person or online. When it's online work, then the process usually starts with a short complementary interview where you explain to me your motivation to actually see me and work with me and start a process. And so I already get a first understanding of your energy. I can tune into you, I can see you on the screen, I can feel your energy, I can already observe a few physical traits, psychological traits, your speech. And then I sent you a very detailed questionnaire to complete that observational part. So I ask you a lot of questions about many different things, and the more information you provide and the more accurate that information, the more accurate also then the puzzle work will be. At that step, you are also invited to provide any blood work you may have or any other tests, diagnostics, or other perspectives that you have already received, whether it's Ayurveda or Chinese medicine. All of it can be very useful to include here. I also ask you to send me a picture of your tongue, because I also look at your tongue, the Chinese medicine perspective here. And then I calculate your astral energetic distribution and look at your astrology in detail. For that, obviously, I ask you your birth data, the date, the time, very important, and the place. And so I do a puzzle work at home, in my own time, my own space. I might carry you with me for a few days, tuning into you, marinating, and allowing also spaciousness for intuitive insights to come up for me. And then I put it all together and either write you a report, that is more the case when we work face to face, or send you a 1 to 2 hour audio where I summarize my views from all the different perspectives and, of course, my recommendations. When it comes to food, when it comes to supplements, I give you menu suggestions, I give you lifestyle recommendations, and also talk about soul lessons that I see are there and what could be appropriate ways to walk into that direction. I might give you book recommendations, and then of course we have a session together of 1.5 hours to talk about all those insights, to clarify doubts, to answer your questions, and to come up with a follow-up plan, an implementation plan. We agree on some first steps because, of course, you are not supposed to implement everything at once. It's a camino, it's a path, and we can walk it together then afterwards as well. I have a personal camino proposal and also a virtual camino, which usually I like to combine both of them. And so you can really then start walking that path, but knowing exactly where you're heading and what the different stages are, and having that framework, that context that you can then always come back to when things happen, when life happens. And of course, it's a living thing. So over time, we might also adjust and further fine tune, but we have a base direction. We are no longer walking in the dark. We can take life as it comes and put it in the context of your soul's journey. And of course, I continue to evolve. I continue to learn with every new person that I encounter to deepen my insights and understanding. And so I would never pretend that I have it all figured out. It will probably continue to change over time as I continue to evolve and to grow and to deepen my understandings of the different energies that are out there and what they need. If you walk with me, you will always benefit from any additional new insights that I will gain. It's a living system. We are living beings, dynamic beings, and so over time we actually grow together. And ideally, over time, I transmit to you that capacity of actually assessing yourself. It's a devotional process. If I choose to walk with you, I am devoted to you, as ideally you would be devoted to that process as well. If that sounds like something you are interested in, don't hesitate to reach out and to have a first free complimentary talk about how I can be of your service with my energy and my tools. Thank you very much for listening.